I'm Jen Kilborn,
And I'm Melissa Klug.
and you're listening to the Pro Organizer Studio podcast.
We want to broaden the horizons of savvy businesswomen in the organizing industry and to give you the confidence you need to grow the business that you want.
With strategies designed specifically for professional organizers, we hope to inspire you wherever you are on your journey of entrepreneurship. We're so happy you're here with us. Now let's get started.
Hey, Pro Organizers, it's your podcast host, Melissa. And if you are on our email list, I sent an email out a couple of weeks ago that was just talking about how I am having an absolutely insane last couple of months. We have had a high school graduation. We have had 3 weeks of house guests. We have had just all sorts of things going on. And then at the end of all of that, I had a trip to France that I just got back from. So I just flew in last night and I am excited to get back into the groove of things. I am filled with pastry and cheese and champagne, and I'm rested and relaxed and ready to go and bring you guys a ton of great stuff for the rest of the summer. So I've missed you. I am happy to be back to normal schedule and excited to bring you a brand new episode today. My guest is Molly Z. Winters. She is a copywriter, and one of the things that you guys all know I'm extremely passionate about is making sure that you're getting all of your information out in the world, whether that is your website or an email newsletter or a blog. And one of the things that is a major sticking point for people is writing. I hear all the time, I don't know how to write. I don't know what to say. I don't know the words. And so I was very excited to meet Molly and have her be able to talk to us about copywriting and all of the magic that happens when you are able to get your message across. She has so many great tips, and she also has a brand new program that she is launching that is all about how to help people be better writers. So much good stuff. And in the show notes, I will have all of the links to all of her things and can't wait for you to listen. So let's get going. I am thrilled to be talking to Molly Winters today because you do something that is incredibly important. And it's something that we talk a lot about in the organizing world, building businesses, but you are a writer. You are specifically a copywriter. So welcome to the podcast. We're happy to have you.
Thank you so much, Melissa. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, tell me a little bit about your background. By the way, this is a plug to go look at Molly's website because one of the things I love about it, it's not just that she talks about her services, but one of the things that I harp on all the time is you have to show your personality on your website. It's what makes people want to work with you. And the minute I went to Molly's website, on her about page, it said, I'm a nerd that gets things done. And I'm like, we are going to be friends.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you. I'm glad that my nerdiness comes across
Absolutely.
okay. So yes, that's a big part of writing, and we'll get to talking about that so it can help out your listeners too. But my background, actually, the reason I write for professional organizers is because I actually did it myself a long time ago. I was a professional organizer. I had Simply Organized LLC. I went into people's homes, the whole bit. Remember those flyers with the little tearaway phone number?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
have
Like you
those.
put them up at
This-
Starbucks.
yeah, yeah. This was 2007. So it was a while ago. And I loved it. I loved it so much. But then I got married, had kids, moved away. And so I got into marketing. I started working for a small company in Washington State and worked on their marketing team. And that's where I discovered a passion for copywriting because copywriting is different than writing. I've always been a writer since I was a little kid, but copywriting is different when you're getting into the marketing world. And so started doing writing for them, copywriting for them, and just really enjoyed it. And then eventually, as my kids got older, as we all do, started to think about what can I be doing on my own. And so that company that I worked for became my first client. And so when I stepped away from them, I actually just continued writing for them and then just grew from there and continued to, take on new clients and would write for them just because it was my passion and I loved doing it.
Are you one of those kids that wrote in your room? Like, have you been writing just forever and ever?
Yes, I have. And I actually have the typewriter that I would write on. We have this 80s typewriter that's just so looks 80s. It's this boxy typewriter. And I would take it outside. I would sit on the porch and write on this, clunky typewriter. And
It was
my
like the
mom-
original laptop.
Yeah, it was. I know. It was very portable it was very heavy. But yeah, I would take it outside or sit at our dining room table and write all sorts of goofy things. And my mom could use a professional organizer and she saves everything. She had my rollerblades from the 90s, everything. And she had this typewriter. And my kids, who are 9 and 11, they discovered it at her house and they started typing on it. And I was like, oh, okay, that's really
Robert,
cute.
that's really sweet.
Yeah, so she actually got it fixed up, took it to a repairman and got it all fixed up, and we have it here now too, so, yeah.
Just a quick side note. My husband's mom is like that too. I always say she could produce his week 3 second grade spelling test on a moment's notice. And as a professional organizer, I'm like, oof, let's not do that. But then every once in a while, you have a story like that where you're like, oh, that's charming as
I
heck.
know, and that's
Terrible
what
that
she
she kept
always
that.
says. Yes, and she always says that, she's like, "But
Then
you
it
wouldn't
proves you're
have that
right.
Molly doll from American Girl if I didn't hang on to it," and she's right, and we have it for my daughter,
Right.
so,
Yeah, I hate it when
yeah,
they're right about
I
certain
know.
things. It's really bothersome. So, well, let me just ask you this. Are your kids, do you think your kids will be writers too? Do they have the
Oh,
bug?
that's a good question. They actually do. My son is in 5th grade, and his teacher just asked him if she could read a poem of his out loud in class, and she told him that it's better than a lot of adults write. And I was just like, "Oh my
Oh,
gosh."
that's
And I by
fantastic.
no means like promote it or anything. I'd
Right.
love if they wanted to be. And so yeah, it might be.
Oh,
That's
I love that. That's great. How do you then morph into this just from an entrepreneurial perspective? Can you tell us a little bit about how did you just say, "Oh my gosh, I can do this?"
because that is always the question is how do I turn this into an actual
Right.
business, you know? So, because writing like X-Files fan fiction that I wrote when I was in the 90s and like, a super cool kid is not going to pay any kind of bills. So, no, when I got into this marketing job and I started to like it, I started looking up how moms could be freelancers. I think I literally Googled mom freelancing from home or something like that. And came across this program called Writing for Money, and it's by Successful Freelance Mom. Giving a shameless plug to them because they really helped me get going. Because there's such a difference between writing and then writing for a business, writing for copywriting and helping people increase sales and things like that. And so I really wanted to have some kind of training, not just go out and say, hey, I can write blogs or I can do things like that. So, yeah, so I just started looking up the research and tools that would help me. And I wanted to have a community, kind of like how you guys have a community. It's just so important to have those other people there that are doing the same thing, that are in it with you. And so I found that. And really, it just kind of took off from there. So
It's fantastic. So you have the professional organizing background. And by the way, you did it before it was like a really major thing. So
mm,
that like kudos to you. You were
thank you. Yeah, it was still a thing back then, but you're right. Nobody knew it as much as like Instagram now allows people to know it.
Yeah, we're kind of in the golden age of professional organizing now because, so many shows about Swedish death cleaning is out on Netflix and there's so much information about organizing out there that I think
Right.
we're very lucky that we live in this time.
True. It's a much more household name. People will know what professional organizing is, or they'll at least know the concept of why. The thing that I struggled with back then was that I was really passionate about simplicity and like the why behind getting organized. But most clients I would encounter just wanted to get their stuff, boxed up and out of the way. They didn't really, so that was hard for me because I really wanted to promote simplicity and how impactful it is and how it can impact your mental health and all of these things. And I don't think people were quite ready for that yet. Some people were for sure, but
It's interesting to see how it's evolved. I mean, and same thing now. Like that's what I thrive on too. Like I want to get underneath like the why did you get this way? And like let's get to
yes,
that. And some people are really, really into that and some people aren't, but it is interesting. I do think people are more open to that now. But the point is you have this background, so you get what professional organizers go through.
yes, absolutely. And I love what you guys do. Like that's the other thing too, is I just think that it is so impactful and so important. And so it just went hand in hand that I would write for them. And it just kind of took off. I started when I was in that program, when I was trying to really build a foundation for my business. They talk about niche, just like you guys do too, about like, are you going to niche down and how much do you want to, and so forth. And I just started thinking about organizers and started reaching out to organizers. And yeah, I just really loved it.
So I have a lot of, if you've listened to the podcast for even 2.5 minutes, people will know that I have a lot of feelings, particularly about websites. I'm extremely passionate about organizers having this foundation of your website is incredibly important to get people to know you. And
Yes.
copywriting is a particularly important part of the website process. So I'll probably go through some of my pet peeves, but why don't you tell me a
Oh, I
little
want to hear them. Yeah.
about what is the importance of copywriting on a website for professional organizers?
The thing that I think gets lost on a lot of organizers, especially because, and I say we because I was one, we tend to be kind of type A or kind of reserved, a little bit private sometimes, and also modest. We don't want to put ourselves out there like, hey, I'm the best. And so we tend to pull back a little bit and hide. And it doesn't mean that you have to put out, super braggy material or anything like that. I think people feel like they're selling themselves, but instead just treating it like a conversation with a friend or a conversation at the grocery store when you meet someone who is like, oh, what do you do? I need that. And so thinking in terms of real people and showcasing yourself and who you are is really important. And one of the biggest mistakes I see on organizer websites is that they are pretty hidden. Sometimes I can't even find a first name, but even when the first name is there, otherwise, sometimes there's not a photo or there might be one photo. There's very minimal language about them. And when there is language, it's very formulaic sometimes. And that all comes from just a place of feeling nervous about the way we put ourselves out there. And it's really important to have your website just be your personality. So if you're funny, put humor into it. If you're not, don't try that. So it's just really, really important to showcase who you are because that's who they're going to be working with.
I would just like to say, Molly and I have never met before, like 20 minutes ago. So we say the exact same things, you
You
guys.
too.
Not gonna
Okay.
listen to me. Please listen to Molly because it's so important. It's like the way I
Yes,
connected with you when you first emailed me about being on the podcast. I'm like, I'm going to go hit up her website. Oh my gosh. I connected. You know what? You might not be for everyone in the same way. I might not be the right organizer. So
exactly.
my website and
Right.
be like, I don't know. She might be a little too funny for me. I need someone more serious. Cool.
Yes,
Down the
exactly.
road, there's someone that's serious and they're going to show that on their website. Don't be someone that you aren't. Be who you are.
Exactly. And the thing that's also really cool about that is then you get to work with the people that you love. If you write the way that you talk, you will get the people, you will attract the people that you love to work with. And who doesn't want to work with the people that just light them up and they have tons of fun with and so forth? It makes completely a different job. So, yeah.
And the importance of showing yourself, again, whatever that personality is, but pictures of yourself. Hi, I'm Melissa. I am here to make your life better. Some of those things, it may seem you may feel weird doing it, or you may seem like, why do they need to know this? And that's exactly what they need to know.
They
They're
do.
inviting you into their underwear drawer.
Yes,
They
literally.
need
Yes,
to feel like, all right, this is someone that I can trust. This is someone I connect with. And you can make that happen on your website
you
by
can.
good writing.
Absolutely. You absolutely can. Yes.
I'm interested to hear where we align on some of the things because you and I probably both look a lot of organizers' websites. And it's always a work in progress, right? It's not a criticism. It's we want to make these better so that those clients can connect with you. But the other thing I see a lot is people think it's a website. It's like formal. I have to be very formal and I have to use very formal words. So I see
Yes.
things like we're not talking about what we do in a simple way that people can understand.
Right, right. That's one of the core components of copywriting and how it's different is that it needs to be conversational. It needs to be and I get the instinct of feeling very formal about it. And that is kind of the way websites used to be. So it's a natural shift that people are going to struggle with.
I think there's an instinct to, I have to present things in a way that is very buttoned up and I have to talk about it in a way that is very fluffy. And it's not talking about what the actual experience is. I'm
Right.
come into your house and get rid of all the stuff you don't need.
Exactly.
Instead
Yeah.
people will say like, I'm going to curate a beautiful home experience for you. And that to me, I pick on the word curate a lot because I see it a lot and I'm like, that word,
Yeah.
it drives
Nobody
me
says that in real, like
nuts.
conversationally. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the things that you do with someone when you are working with them? How does
Yes.
that process work? And how do you somehow translate who they are to a page?
Yeah, I will sit down with them. The first thing we do when we're working together is a long call because I want to deep dive into their person, their persona, but also their people, like what they're. So I will ask them all sorts of things about what their people say. Like, what are the words they use when they're talking about it before and after? And not just testimonials that are flowery, but actually say, like, what are the things that once they loosen up a little bit when you're in their house and they're really struggling, what are the words they use? And using those on your website or wherever can really help connect and land with them. And then also the things that you say, because I think you're right. We get very professional. We think we need to have this professional layer on, and all of these more formal words get used, and then it feels kind of stuffy and boxy. So instead, if you can think of it the way that you describe it when you meet someone, just the things that you say when you're with a group of women and someone finds out what you do and they want to hear all about it, the words that you say in conversation are also the words you can use in your writing.
I love that because I always try to think about things in my business as what would I say to a client? Like if I were working with an organizing client, and I feel copywriting is like this as well. Sometimes you go into a client's house and you see the simplest solution and they're like, "Oh, I've never thought of that." And
Exactly.
and the reason for that is because the person is seeing their own stuff every day. They don't see it because it's just a part of their life. The same thing with our business is we don't sometimes see those things that are differentiating or that are interesting. It's
Yes.
just something that we see every day. And so we don't say, oh, that's an interesting thing for me to talk about.
Right. Absolutely. That's true.
From your perspective, like when you have worked with clients, what are some of the transformations you've seen in terms of the results that they get when they do actual copywriting work?
Well, when I work with them and do the writing myself, usually what it is they're completely stuck, especially when it's a website. I will get people coming to me who are just stuck and like they're ready to launch their whole business, but the website is the hurdle. They're just so stuck. And so they will hire me to write that for them. And so they will just read it and feel like, oh my gosh, this is me. This is exactly what I would want it to be, but it's really hard when you're in it, It's like the what do they say? The frog in the boiling water. Put the pot on the stove and they're in it, and you slowly increase the temperature, but if you they'll stay, but if you drop it right into the into the boiling water, they won't. And so, I think that's the same with copywriting and writing for our own business. It's really hard to do it for yourself, and there's a reason I started writing for other people. Like you can see it differently. So sometimes if you don't have the budget to hire a copywriter, sometimes it can help to just really talk to friends, talk to family or colleagues that know you well, and just ask them for ideas or words that they would use to describe you, and then try to get some of those feelings into it.
One of the hardest things I see in the work that I do is you use the word stuck. And so sometimes people will get stuck and then they will not launch their business. It will
Yes,
be months, if not longer, that they're
longer.
like, I can't finish my website. So I can't start my business. And,
Right.
we call that it's opportunity costs. You have lost thousands of potentially thousands of dollars of clients along that way because you have this piece that you can't get past. It's a hurdle that is too tall for you. And so when you're in one of those situations, figuring out how to get unstuck, and sometimes that might be an investment. And the way I ask people to think about it sometimes is if spending this money will allow you to make money, like you will be able to launch your business and get it out in the world. That's an important thing. Whatever that stuck point is, there is someone that can help you with that.
That can help you, absolutely, especially when you're stuck launching. If you are just not getting out there because of your website, that's definitely a place where I can help or other copywriters can help just get it out there. And I think the thing too, I like how you said that it doesn't have to be the same. Like things change over time. You can put your website out there and the next week be like, oh, I really don't like what I wrote there. I'm going to change it. It's a work in progress. I like to think of copywriting similar to an organizing job. When you think of your clients that you're going to who say things like they're overwhelmed, they're stuck, they don't know where to start, or they start doing a little bit and then they are completely stuck. They don't know where to go from there. I think it's the same with people sitting down to write for their business. They sit down, they write a little bit, and then they just are totally stuck and they go off and do something else. And so, actually, part of this year, I am working on materials to help people unstick themselves. If you look up copywriting, you'll find all sorts of things about like money words or keywords and SEO and all of those amazing things that really can help your business. But you can't even get there until you've gotten your mindset around writing for your business down, until you've gotten comfortable with how it can be. Then you can go in and add all of those great tools that can really like skyrocket your results. So,
Yeah. And there can be steps in the process too. So I want people to think about right now, you may be in launch mode and money is tight and you don't have the money to invest right now. Get something out there so that you can get a few clients coming in so that then you can afford to invest in something bigger. Because what we want to see is that your website is converting people. And the way that it converts people is to make it relatable and to have all of these pieces together. And so it might be that this is the smartest investment you could make if you are truly stuck and if you really are not good. Some people are just not good with writing. It's not their
yes.
talent.
Right. It's such a variety of people. I've written for authors, like published book authors. And it's just a different kind of thing when you're writing about yourself on a website or in your email marketing or on a sales page, heaven forbid if you have to write a sales page. And so it is just different. And with the website, I like that you mentioned mine because mine is a work in progress. I'm actually about to like revamp all of the copy on it. And so we're all a work in progress. And you wouldn't tell your organizing client, like, don't even try until you've done this. You would say, well, let's just get started and one step at a time and so forth. So
That is a great point. We give clients grace that we don't give ourselves.
absolutely. Yeah. Don't we all do that though, as
Yeah.
moms or women or
Right.
just in life and business? Yes, we do. Yeah.
But we would tell them like, hey, let's just do one foot in front of the other. Whereas we tell ourselves it has to be perfect. Otherwise I can't put it out into
Yeah,
the
I
world.
can't put it out there until it's perfect. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And perfection is, I mean, we could talk about this for hours, but
We could.
like, what does that even mean? Right? Like getting something out there that is good enough. You are never going to get the perfect website. It is always going to be a work in progress.
Yes.
We're in the middle of totally revamping our entire Inspired Organizer course and putting up tons of new content. And I was working on something last night and someone in our group had given a quote about their business and it said, it was very simple. It was just, it is forever evolving.
Yes. Yes. So
That
true.
is true about everything in our business, whether it
Yeah.
is your website, whether it is your services, whether it is your, all of these things are not written in stone.
Because just as soon as you think that you've got it down, there's something new that you're doing and it's just always changing. So yes, and just trying to keep that open mindset, I think can really, really help remove the fear.
We've talked a lot about websites, but there is a lot of other writing that goes into an organizing business. And one of the things that
Absolutely.
I've been harping on recently is blogs. So
Yes.
tell us a little bit about your philosophy on some of those other parts of organizing.
Right. So with blogging specifically, I always recommend that you start with what you can do. So don't open up the floodgates and think you're going to post once a week or twice a week. If it's overwhelming for you, just start with once a month, and just give it a try. And again, like we've been talking about, just put it out there. Don't write it up and think, oh no, I'm going to come back to it later. I have seen incredible SEO with people on their websites before they even knew what SEO meant. I have a client, but also just a colleague and kind of friend in organizing who has incredible SEO. And she started years ago before she even really knew what SEO was. It wasn't for that purpose. She just liked sharing knowledge about organizing and how to help people. And so it really doesn't have to be as daunting as people think. And again, it all comes down to this kind of just do it, just get it out there mindset.
It does not, especially blogging. I think people have this like block on it has to be a publish a book worthy
Right.
piece of writing, and it really doesn't. Obviously, we want it to be good. We don't want to just throw something out there,
Absolutely. Yes.
but there's something in the middle of this is Pulitzer Prize winning work and
Right.
good enough to help my website go do its work.
Exactly.
What do you see as the hurdles for people in terms of learning how to be better writers? If someone is just saying, okay, I would like to work on some just self improvement in terms of my writing, are there tips that you can give people just from your writing perspective of how to do that?
Yeah, there's a couple of really like intro copywriting tips that really help people when they're trying to write for the business. And the probably the easiest one is just the word you, you. So often we write about ourselves and we say I this and I that and I and while they kind of care about you, they don't really care about you. When people come to your website or your blog or read your email, they are really just looking at what's in it for them. And not in a bad way, but that's just what we all do, right? Think about yourself. When you open up an email, you want to know what you're going to get from it if it's from a business or you go to a website, you want to know how they can help you. And so flipping the word I to you in your writing can be tremendous. It can really help you land and like speak right to the person because that's what we want to do in copywriting is we want them to read it and feel like you are talking right to them. And it's not going to be right to everyone, but that's the point is you want to speak right to the people you really want to work with. And so flipping that I to you can be a big helper. The other one is if you are completely stuck, sometimes I recommend that people walk around with like their voice memo app and
Yeah,
just
I do too. Oh my
yeah,
gosh, you're the same person.
this is so great. I love it when we click like this. I actually call myself the connection copywriter because I think this is what we want to get in words. We want to connect like this, the way that you can in person. Back when we had brick and mortar stores, when you would go in and talk to someone in person instead of everything being online, you would just strike up a conversation and you would quickly know if you connected with the person. So that's what we're trying to do in our writing online and on our websites and everything is really just try to connect with people. But where was I? Oh,
For
yeah.
the
It's walking around with the voice memo app because that is the sticking point is that people sit down. And I think that's why a lot of writing is stuffy and very professional. And you can still have a professional tone and bring in your style. But the voice memo part of just like walking around and talking to yourself and saying all the things, that is how you can get it out. And then you can sit down at your desk and at the keyboard and listen back to it and try to incorporate some of those things into your writing.
I want to go back to the talking about you in a second, but the voice memo trick, I use it all the time in my
Yeah.
own. And there are so many tools now. We are so lucky that we have all of these tools that you can do a voice memo and then transcribe it. So
Right.
you don't even have to listen back. Like you can just literally
That's
transcribe it,
true.
take
Literally. Yeah.
some
Yeah.
words that you're like, okay, I'm going to make this sound a little bit better. And I'm going to take out the ums and the uhs, whatever.
Exactly.
But what you're saying is we're trying to make it a conversation. We are trying to make it relatable and normal and not stuffy. And I think sometimes when we sit in front of a blank white
Yes.
document, it feels like we're back in school, first of all.
Yes. Yes.
You feel like you're taking a test or something, and you've just got this blank cursor staring at you, and you have no
Right.
ideas, and it really helps move past that block
It
from
does, absolutely, I think so too, because that's when words like curate or, different words come into play, and really we want to write the way we talk. That's really what we wanna do, so
absolutely, and I love the tip that you gave about what would you say to someone in a grocery store? Someone asks what you do, what would you say to them? Like, it
right,
sounds very simple, but it is really super effective of just what would you say in a normal conversation with someone?
exactly, right,
All right, let me
that's
go back to the first one because I think it's really important.
yes,
So, changing I to you. I have a Post-it note on my computer. I'm traveling right now, but at home on my computer, I have a Post-it note that says it's about them. And I
yes,
keep it there because I have to remind myself sometimes that too that someone wants to hear, like, what are you going to do for me? And we have a tendency to try to sell ourselves. I am super qualified because XYZ, and I am really good at organizing because what? No, they want to hear that their home is going to be better because you are in it. They want to hear that you are going to drive all of their things that they don't need away so
Yes.
that they can just enjoy their day and not have to drive in line at Goodwill, whatever. They
Yes.
want to hear about you in the way that is going to make their life better.
That is going to help them. That's why an about page on a website isn't really about you. You being the the organizer. And it is, you want to bring in the things like we said that makes you personable and that they can connect to and relate to, but it's really about how you can help them because that's what they're looking for. That's what they want to know. They want to know that transformation, that thing that they're looking for, that goal that they're hoping to get. They want to know that they can get that from you. So sometimes I'll start some writing with a question or, that feeling when, because it immediately gets them into it, especially if they can relate to the feeling. And so using you and flipping it back to being about them is critical. So I love your post-it note. I think that's a great idea.
And I put it up there because I have to be reminded of it, right?
And I do too. And that's the thing is even as a copywriter, I have to think about that. I have to sit there and think because it's different. It's like, what are people stuck with when they're sitting at their desk and they can't write? Because this year I'm trying to talk more about that so that I can help the folks that can't hire a writer. But then when I'm writing for people, I really need to get into the headspace of where their people are. And so the things that they're struggling with, if it's clutter, overwhelm, never finding keys, those kinds of things are what we want to talk about so that it can connect with the reader.
And I know this is harder when you're early on in your organizing career, but I always try to think about, and I think you said it earlier, but what do your clients say to you? And what my clients say to me is, I'm completely overwhelmed. That's the word that 100% of people use.
Yes. It's on every website I write. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
because it's a word that they use.
Everybody.
And then also, what are other things that they are struggling with? Like I had a client one time who hired me because she lost her keys every morning. She's like, I can't lose my keys every morning. Like, how can I keep doing, like, I've got to do something different, right? What are those things that someone is bringing to you? Because if one person is struggling with it, I guarantee 200 other people are struggling with it.
Exactly. And those are the things to talk about. Kitchen counters that are covered. Talk about that. Everybody can relate to that. Even organizers can relate to the fact that people, family members just come in and that's the place you drop stuff. Talk about those common things that they can relate to. And the thing too with our writing that we can do is write in a way that unites the different people. Because if you have a certain group of people you love to work with, they might all have some differences, but they also all likely have some similarities that you can talk about, whether it's the lost keys or the kitchen counter or the things that they do struggle with, paper management, mail, just the things that unite them are the things to talk about in your writing.
Yeah, and that's a great point is no matter who we're talking to, you might have some outliers that are like, no, my mail system is absolutely fabulous.
Right.
Most clients that are coming to you do not have a fabulous organized mail system. They have a completely out of control system and they don't know where any other things are, right? Like you can find those things that like maybe one or two of the people that come into your website aren't going to relate to that, but the vast majority are.
Yes. And I think the other thing though too is that people worry that if they talk about certain things, it will turn people away. Sometimes that's a good thing. There are certain people that you can use the right words that you do want to turn away. Not when you're first starting out. When you're launching, you just want to get any clients that you can. But as you grow and you start to realize certain types of clients that don't work well for you and so forth, it's okay to have things there that eliminate some people or attract others. And so it is just kind of the old cliche of if you talk to everyone, you talk to no one. And it's so true. You really need to be talking to specific people and getting clear on what they need and want and put that in your writing.
Yeah, we talk a lot about ideal client in our Inspired Organizer group. And I used that phrase the other day. When you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one because if it's too generic and if it's talking
Right.
to everyone from a minimalist who still thinks they have a little bit too much stuff to, someone that is legitimately on the hoarding spectrum, you're going to miss, like, no one's going to feel like you're speaking to them.
No one's gonna connect with it, right? It's just gonna fall flat for them, for sure. So, that's why actually the ideal client part, I try to take people a step further. So, I have what I call the relate writing method, and the R is for real people, because sometimes we get stuck thinking about these ideal client avatars or these different things, but if you can just think of a real client you've worked with, or if it's not even a client, maybe it's just your neighbor down the street who always talks about how she struggles because the kids and all the stuff and the things that come in and out of the house. Think about that person and write as though you're writing to her. Write
I
as though you're writing to one person, even though you're writing to the masses.
It's taking your ideal client and making them a real person first.
Yeah, yeah,
I love
exactly.
that.
So when I write emails, that's how I write them. I will picture someone in my mind and write it as though I'm writing to them.
I
So
love
instead of saying like you all in your emails, you want it to be about them, you, a specific person.
I love it. So, what is the journey in terms of working with you? If someone is listening to this and they're like, I am all of those things that she talked about, I am stuck.
So the way to work with me directly, one-on-one, is I start off just like a lot of organizers with just a quick meet and greet. We just have a Zoom call and chat and see if we'd be a good fit on both sides and talk through the process of working together. And once they choose to work together, then we go into what's called a project call. And that's where we dive deep, like right into all the questions. I have a long list of questions that I go through. And sometimes I'll do the trick of the like, and then why? And then why? And go like really try to get deep into the layers. And then I sit down and I write for them. And the way people will say, like, how do you write to sound like me and not someone else? And that is just an intuitive gift that I have of just talking to people and being able to write the way that they would. So then I will write the materials for them, whether it's a website and so forth, and then hand it over. And we go through an editing process and end up with the words that they have that they plug into their website. And the people that you probably encounter the most that are really stuck and can't launch their business yet, the website is often that piece that gets the dominoes going. And so I would say if you're an early organizer, you're just starting out, the website is the one that people will come to me and feel like they can spend the money on that and have me do it for them. But I can also help people get more comfortable with writing, because so often it's not that you can't write, it's just that there's like blocks and fear and so forth. So, yeah, I have a little guide on my website, the 3 mistakes people make most commonly on their website that they can grab for free. And then I do have a group, a community where I try to give people support and help on their writing for their business. So,
Fabulous. I think you and I would both agree that we just want people to understand the importance of those words.
yes.
It's really important. Those words really mean something and they convert into sales. And that's the important thing is it is something that actually converts someone to being a client.
It really does. And they're not important in the sense of make you yourself freeze up and so forth. They're important in the way that you connect with other people, just like you would in person. So, because I'm trying to reach more people that are on a DIY budget, I'm going to be having my first course where I offer just called What the Heck Do I Write on My Website? Because not everybody can hire somebody right out of the gate. And
Can we
then
quick
eventually,
lesson on brand, just really quickly, quick lesson on branding. What the heck do I write on a website? It's very clear what she is selling, you guys. So like, please take a
yep,
lesson from that, if nothing else. Like, just
it's not fancy, right? It's not, but that's exactly what people will say to me. That's exactly where they are. Is they're just like, what the heck do I write on my website? What's the things they mutter under their breath? Because this is what I love, is I love connecting with people and helping people. But when I have just those one-on-one services, I can't reach as many people. And so that's why this year I'll have more available for people to do it on a DIY budget. So yeah.
I love that. If someone is listening to this and they're like, I need this now, like, how can they get in touch with you and
Yeah.
chat about things?
Thank you. The first step would just be going to my website, mollyzwinters.com. And remember, it's a work in progress, so that's okay. And so you can check that out and see some of my free resources and tools, but also you can just email me directly and we can get the ball rolling about having a conversation and a meet and greet. And then you can find me on the usual social media platforms as well.
We will put all of Molly's information in our show notes. And I want people to get over that fear, getting unstuck and getting over that, get the thing out there.
I do too. That is, I like to say, go unstuck yourselves.
Yeah.
Like I just, like it's just so important. So
Well, from a professional organizer to a writer about professional organizers, I am so happy to have been able to chat with you today. Thank you for coming.
yeah, thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it. Thanks, Melissa. It's been fun.